Okay, and the metaphor that I like to use is the metaphor between confidence and cholesterol. So the way to manage your confidence is not a question of reducing your confidence. It's a question of identifying the good confidence and the bad confidence, running with the great stuff and trying to get the toxic stuff out of the way that you do business. So that's the metaphor that I like to use. There's good cholesterol, there's bad cholesterol, there's good confidence, there's bad confidence. Let's identify the good confidence and try and eliminate the bad confidence. The trouble is, as with this cartoon and cholesterol, the bad cholesterol molecules are the ones with scars and eye patches and bandanas and dragon tattoos on their shoulders, when in reality it's very difficult to spot bad confidence and good confidence. Okay, so let's get into the question of what is good confidence and what is bad confidence in the context of our abilities and our situation. Self-assessment. Do we have a good handle on our capabilities? I'd like to draw your attention to an example of Dean Kamen. Has anybody here heard of Dean Kamen, the founder of the Segway? Yeah, if you're like me, you'd have a tremendous empathy for Dean Kamen. He's a brilliant inventor. In fact, he's won the MIT award for best inventor in the United States. Not only that, he's an incredibly compassionate individual. Okay, he wants to invent things that are going to improve people's lives. So he was in Times Square in Manhattan, and he was watching a disabled person in a wheelchair try and operate his wheelchair on the other side of a sidewalk and not be able to get up the sidewalk because there was a curb on the sidewalk. And he said, this is absolutely unnecessary. We're going to find technology that's going to enable us to the individuals like that to get up onto the sidewalk. Okay, so he's invented this wheelchair, a remarkable device that sort of rears back on its hind legs, sort of like a horse that's being threatened. But he's designed this technology so that people can navigate through and over these curbs. Okay, so that's Dean Kamen at his best, receiving an award there from President Clinton for the wheelchair. Here's Dean Kamen with the Segway. I don't know, has anybody ever had a ride on the Segway or seen the Segway? Okay. The Segway, the technology for the Segway evolved straight out of this technology from the wheelchair. Just as that wheelchair rises on its back legs in a self-balancing fashion, this Segway, miraculously, is also a self-balancing vehicle. And so, you can imagine the potential sort of applications of this. But this time Kamen was not really interested in solving a dire human need. This time he entered the entertainment market, and he was wanting to become a global business celebrity. He believed that the Segway would do to the car what the car did to the horse and buggy. Like so many entrepreneurs, he came up with some forecasts that said, look, we have 6 billion people on Earth. We have, all I need to do is capture 0.1% of the global, population. Okay, 6 million Segways. We sell the Segways at $5,000 a pop. That's a $30 billion a year run rate. It shouldn't be that difficult. And he developed a manufacturing facility in Manchester, New Hampshire, to accommodate that kind of demand. So the reason why I mention that is that I think Dean Kamen lost his way. I think he lost touch of what makes him tick. Think about what makes you tick at work, okay? What makes you tick at work? What's the reason why you go to work every morning? When I was in investment banking, the reason why I went to work was absolutely not because I love my clients and I wanted to see them profit from mergers and acquisitions. The reason why I went to work was because I wanted to make a lot of money for myself. Okay? Now, I think there's a distinction between intrinsic sources of pride, a locus of pride as intrinsic, we're doing this for the love of it. We're doing this because we want to do a good job, or extrinsic. We're doing this to please some other external constituency, that this is just a means to some kinds of end. Okay? So, as investment bankers back in the 80s, we're all very impressed by, who bought the latest BMW, who was going out with the, Italian model who did the lingerie for, Coles Myers summer collection, and those kinds of things. It was very, very easy to lose track of who we are. And psychiatrists in Manhattan will tell you that some of the most neurotic people that they've ever met are investment bankers, because they're losing touch with themselves, because they're not doing work that's authentic to who they are. They're not doing work for the love of it and for the desire of doing a great job, but for some other external reason. So I think with Dean Kamen, what we saw was that Dean Kamen went from over here, and it's a pity that this slide hasn't come out the way it should. Over here, he was developing the wheelchair. He was being absolutely true to himself, and he was using the best available data to develop that wheelchair. Okay. When it came to developing the Segway, Dean Kamen morphed into somebody who wasn't. Okay. He morphed into somebody who was out to be a global celebrity, and he was looking for the kind of data that I mentioned before, projections on human populations, to get evidence as to whether or not he was on the right track. So obviously we've got to be over here where we're staying true to ourselves and we're using the most objective data for that. When we venture into these other quadrants, we lose touch with who we are, what our abilities are, and that's when we lose our compass and get off course. Okay, so situation assessment is the next thing. What data are you looking at to develop strategy and invest? And an interesting place to start here is, I think, US foreign policy, because I think US presidents over the years have liked to see the world the way they want it to be rather than the way it is. So let me take you through some maps of the world provided by journalists that describe how President Reagan, President Clinton, and the more recent President Bush viewed the world. And then we go back to President Reagan, and some of you might have seen this. It's been circulating for some time. But this is the foreign policy according to President Reagan. And of course, President Reagan was somebody who really made Margaret Thatcher look like a Bolshevik. Reagan was so conservative himself. But it's very interesting in sort of hindsight to see sort of some of these depictions of different parts of the world, Middle East. Look at the conception of China over here. Their China and our China. The view of the United States of America and the role of Mexico in North America. And of course, he did have a tremendous affection and strong relationship with Prime Minister Thatcher. Okay, now we turn our attention to President Clinton. And when Clinton came to office, the one thing he was paranoid about was getting the US into another Vietnam War situation. He'd say that there's one thing that we can't afford to do, it was to get the US into another Vietnam War situation. So this seemed to be Clinton's view of the world when he took office. Okay. More recently, we've seen President Bush, and this is his assessment, one interpretation of his assessment. What's that? Oh, no, you still got it. Yeah, of his assessment of the world. The foreign policy according to President Bush, and you can see how he reacted when the French didn't decide to join him in the conflict in Iraq. Some things don't change down here.